In this video, we're going to go after listening skills. So let's unpack the details. I'd like to share a quote with you from the famous writer Ernest Hemingway. He said, "When people talk, listen completely. Most people never listen." In this video, we're going to talk about improving your listening skills. The benefits for improved listening are almost endless. It helps you develop a greater appreciation for other people, helps you learn and understand more about the world, and it helps you communicate more effectively overall, because if you're listening more effectively when you speak, your messages are much more likely to hit their target. So in this video, my overall point is that listening is the best way to instantly improve your communication. And I'm going to share with you 3 tips to help you improve your listening. The first tip is to show other people that they matter with your listening. Now, these tips are all mindset tips mainly, but in your mind, before you enter a conversation, if you can commit to showing people that they matter, it's going to come across in the way you behave. Now, when you show them that they matter, what you're doing is you're taking your mind off of yourself for a little while, and you're focusing entirely on them and what they are saying. And when you're showing people that they matter, you know what this looks like because you have seen other people listen to you very carefully. When people are listening to you carefully, they're giving you their undivided attention. They're literally leaning forward in their chairs. They're making solid eye contact. They're caring about what you're saying through their facial expressions. That's what showing people that they matter looks like. Now, we could break this down into lots of behavioral steps, and I'll probably at some point develop a whole entire course on just listening. But if, in my experience, if you can change your mindset and think, in this conversation, I'm going to show them that they matter, most of the nonverbal behaviors will come across that way. So that's the first tip. Show them that they matter. The second tip is to listen to understand, not to respond. So you want to listen with an open mind, purely to absorb what the other person is saying. It doesn't mean you're going to agree with everything they say, but you're listening just to understand, not to respond. See, what happens is when we're listening to respond, we tend to queue up our next comment in the back of our mind, and we're forming that thought, and we're not really paying attention to what the person is saying in the first place. That's called a rebuttal response, and it leads to very poor listening. You're not going to even comprehend very much if you're thinking about what you'll say next. You don't want to have this rebuttal tendency where you're going to argue against it, make your own point, form your own thought. And if you're thinking of that, it's going to throw you off track. Instead, what you want to do is listen with an open mind completely, just to understand. Now, some people would say, well, what if then they ask me, what do you think? You can always say something like, well, give me a second, let me think about that. And then form your thought and respond. It's a classy move, actually, in a conversation to give something that they've said some extra thought before you respond. So that's the second tip. Listen to understand, not to respond. And the third tip is to show the speaker that you're following along with them. And the 2 ways to do that are by asking follow-up or clarifying questions. And another way is just to respond in a short little statement that indicates that you're following along with them. Now, I was practicing this style of listening to show my wife when we first got married that I really was paying attention to what she was saying. So during dinner time, I said, okay, during dinner today, I am going to listen to whatever she says, and I'm going to really show her that I'm following along. And she happened to be, during that dinner, talking about broccoli. And so I was doing my job as a listener, and I was asking follow-up questions, and I was saying things like, oh, how do you like your broccoli cooked? And she was saying, well, not really steamed or boiled, but mostly I like it fried up really hot in a pan, so that the edges get a bit brown and crispy. And I would say, oh, okay, that's brown and crispy. I see that. And do you like the flowerets about the size that are on your plate right now, or bigger or smaller? She said, well, really, I like the flowerets of broccoli chopped up very small. That's the best way to eat it. Little tiny bite-sized thing. And I kept listening and asking questions and showing her that I was following along like this. And she got really excited all of a sudden talking about broccoli. So that's what good listening will do to a conversation. And at one point she even said, like, hold on a second, like, what are you doing right now? Why are we so engaged? Why do you like broccoli so much all of a sudden in this conversation? And I said, well, I'm just working on my listening. And as funny as it sounds, she really did appreciate the depth and detail that I was caring about her thoughts right there. So you want to listen and show them that you're following along, and it'll lead to a wonderful conversation. So in summary, listening is the best way to instantly improve your communication overall. Your homework assignment for this video is really simple. The very next conversation you have, I want you to listen completely to what the other person is saying using these 3 tips that we talked about, and watch what happens. I guarantee you it'll be a very different kind of conversation that you're used to having. And I would like to finish with a quotation from the book of James. Be quick to listen and slow to speak. See you in the next video. I hope you found that video on listening skills helpful. You may not realize it, but you are in the middle of a 5-part mini course on essential professional communication skills. I will put a link to all 5 lessons in the description below this video, as well as a link below the video that links to the quick guide, essentially a PDF that summarizes all the tips for all 5 videos and then gives links to each of the videos so you can get directly to them there. Those are all free and I encourage you to check them out. So let's get into the next video about building positive relationships.